Art should come to the point to where it's integral to the vocabulary of daily life, that we should not make it precious beyond its capacity, and I think that that's what we're doing. We pay millions of dollars for paintings today. There's no painting in the world worth millions of dollars, but what we've done is almost through committee, we've decided that this is what's going to happen, and that's what we've done. I think that the average person looking at these things should be able to enjoy it, and that's the joy of making it, as far as I'm concerned, is that communication with the public.
Hi, I'm Sam Sachs, director of the Detroit Institute of Arts. My friend here is one of 15 works of art which can be found along the 3-mile route of downtown Detroit's People Mover. The Art in the Stations project is one of the most important public art projects in the entire country, both because of its size and the quality of the art. This tremendous achievement was conceived by one woman, Irene Walt, who formed a volunteer committee to select the artists and works for the project. With support from the mayor, the project was able to raise over $2 million, and one woman's dream became a reality for an entire city. There is no doubt that public art enhances and enriches our lives, and there is no better proof of this than what you are about to see. Join me, won't you?
The next station is Renaissance Center.
The art in the stations makes People Mover travel an upbeat, enjoyable experience for those who ride the system each day. Passengers quickly notice that each of the 13 stations has its own individual personality, thanks to the exceptional artwork designed by local, national, and international artists. Because of the need for durability, the medium for most was tile, but there are also works in bronze, neon, Venetian glass mosaic, and enamel on metal. All in all, an exciting variety of art.
The most wonderful thing of all about this project was that we got involved from the beginning. So before the stations were designed and the blueprints were ready, and by the time they had picked the artist they wanted, they'd assigned us stations. But we were allowed to pick in the station where our work went, so that our work will look like it was belonged and planned for from the beginning and not as an afterthought, as so much often happens in public art.
And the purpose of this is not to have a content or to have a specific meaning, but rather to make the experience of being in the station meaningful, make it enjoyable, have some accents, some life to being in the station. And I'm also interested in an experience which isn't just impressive the first time, because in theory, people use a transit system over and over and over.
Usually, patrons of mine are visiting works in galleries and museums, and they're looking for a more subtle approach. And this time I'm trying to introduce people who will be coming in contact with this purely by chance, that public art is great for everyone to see and enjoy.
I want it to be something that a 2-year-old kid could look at and like it, a 80-year-old retired postal worker, educator could look at it and like it. I'm trying to make a painting that feels a lot better than I do. I mean, I look at this and I say, wow, I wish I felt that great, you know?
This project was ambitious and complicated, and presented new and interesting challenges to the artists.
Room to store these up there, and we're still into that situation. I can't get a hold of Pete. Maybe they have some space you could leave the raceways in. See, he thought you could leave the whole truck.
Many problems had to be overcome. For instance, several artists were asked to work with materials that they had never used before. Size was also a problem. The individual pieces were immense. And for some, work was done in locations not always conducive to the production of art.
It's completely different than working in the privacy of your own studio. I mean, for one thing, it's totally public, as you see. There are thousands of people working all around, walking in and out of your space, talking to you. And the other thing that's very hard to get used to is how large it is, the distance, taking things back and forth to the kiln, taking things back and forth to be sprayed. I mean, it's a quarter of a mile everywhere you want to go.
My problem to solve was working with materials that would last 50 years.
I thought the problem would be to take one material, clay, and make it appear to be as many things as possible, rationally. So there are some gold parts and there are some platinum parts, and it's all about relationships.
The design is about relationship. Relationship of these neons to the building. In the 60s, there used to be a lot of questions if neon is art and so forth, but I don't get those questions anymore. Any artist could use any kind of material that they want to make whatever they want, and it could be whatever it is, and if they feel that is art for them or using it as an art material, it's their privilege.
Well, it's all the same materials that the company uses to make their sinks and toilets. It's the same slip body, which makes the bathroom fixtures, and it's the same glazes that they use in the bathroom fixtures, which I've adapted to my own purposes. And 3 or 4 artists are here at a time, using all the industrial technology and facilities of the plant, trying to divert it toward making art. I went through a period of almost 2 months of color testing. After I did the painting, then I put them in the kiln, and I fire them. And then it comes out, and then if I want it to be richer, I paint it again, and I fire it again. But some of the colors, like in this high fire process, you can't get a real intense red or a real intense orange unless you go through several firings just to get a medium intense red or orange.
It's been a monster, and a lot of variables that I never had to contend with as a painter. Painting is a difficult medium in itself, but at least the color that you apply is the color you're stuck with. In this case, I'm trying to paint a color that will appear after firing, but while I'm applying it, it's quite different in value. For example, some of the large areas of the painting are dark, almost a midnight blue, but when I mix the color or put it on the surface, it comes in a cobalt or very light sky-like blue. Every day I would go apply color. Every night I would go home and wonder if it was right. And then I would take a tray of it to Pewabic daily, and it would be fired. I would get it back. It would be so different I would hardly recognize the pieces.
Beautiful, James, beautiful. I love it. Gorgeous. I love it.
Pewabic Pottery, located near downtown Detroit, is a nationally recognized ceramic art learning center, museum, and gallery. Ever since it was founded in 1903 by Mary Chase Stratton, Pewabic has played a very important role in the American arts and crafts movement. Known for its unique glazes and the production of fine art tile, Pewabic Pottery fabricated 4 of the pieces in the People Mover stations.
We can't lay down all the tiles until we get the rest of this wing in. That's what they're working on over there.
Oh, okay.
2 of these works were designed by painters who had never worked in ceramic before, and 2 were designed by artists in residence.
My role in the 4 installations that Pewabic is doing for the People Mover station has been to design glaze colors and surfaces that each of the 4 artists executing these installations have asked for. I also solve glaze problems when there are pits and flaws.
There's only one thing James told me is that this piece right here, you forgot to pull the tape. And
yeah,
so
I did
it
that on
buckles
a
around
couple
it.
occasions.
Yeah, more than a couple.
Yeah, well.
You need to pull the tape.
Yeah,
What was interesting about working with painters who knew nothing about ceramics is that they would try things which I thought wouldn't work. And I would have to restrain myself from saying, don't do that, it won't work. And then after we fired it, they discovered something new. And that's really the essence and the beauty of collaboration. is that a person who doesn't know the material will extend it and stretch it and expand it.
You understand, I didn't know anything about ceramics when I came here at all. I knew even less than I thought. And I've had a great time here at Pewabic. They were very, very kind in taking a painter who comes from a totally different tradition and slowly revealing to me that I didn't know anything. You know, it was sort of like, oh, so that's what it is. It took about 3 months of work here and making a lot of mistakes, and they were very straight-faced about it. They said, okay, do it again. You know, it was really very, very friendly. So any opportunities that I find in learning about ceramics to enrich the surface, then I take advantage of it. Sometimes it would appear to have been a mistake, and we can take advantage of this in an unorthodox way to make the piece even better.
The process of silk screening has always fascinated me, and for the first time I had an opportunity to work in a factory and see the work in process. Permanence is what appealed to me. It's fired on enamel, just like a refrigerator, same kind of company that makes stoves and refrigerators. And then all of the colors were put on by hand, and at that last minute I could make little changes before they put them into the oven. So I was still working on the mural just before it went into the oven. I was surprised at the intense heat required to fire the drawing to the white background. When the panels would come out, the red would be black and the yellow would be red, and nothing seemed right, and then it would just gradually turn to the right color. And if I didn't like the color, we could try it again. It was a wonderful second chance.
The toughest problem that I encountered was discovering how this piece would be put on the wall with varying weather conditions. So I had to talk about expansion and contraction to allow for movement. I decided to use a leucobond. It's guaranteed for over 100 years without any problems. The paint that I chose to use was industrial enamel. With these boards being separate, we decided to put pins to connect them, to give them enough mobility so that they would be able to move.
Drawings are the key to all of the work. Once the drawings are completed, and I've spent a lot of time on the drawings, then it's a matter of taking the drawing and tracing it onto a sheet of wax. Heavy pieces of wax, and then iron them down so that the surface itself has some activity to it rather than just being a straight cutout. Then I just cut the figure out as a starting point. My interest in having my work in bronze has been about a 30-year endeavor, and I've been involved in building 3 different foundries. Once I understood the process very thoroughly, I no longer wanted to do that part of it. I just wanted to make sculpture, but I think the fact that I do understand quite well what happens in the foundry and all of the things that should be considered in the making of a piece of sculpture, the foundry process then fits very neatly into the way I make my sculpture, because I make it to be cast in the way that's most suitable for casting. The relationship you have with the foundry, the ones you work with, is very important, because we can make adjustments back and forth, and it's really a team effort to get the result that you want. And for me, it's extremely important to be able to work right with the foundry.
The long, slow process of creating a work of art was finally completed. The finished pieces came out of the studios, warehouses, and factories, and were installed on site while the stations were still under construction. At last, the artists had an opportunity to see their pieces come together. For some, it was the first time they had a chance to see their work in its entirety.
Well, there are 3 times that are great. When you do the initial design, and then when I have thousands of stacks of colored tile and piece it together, I use the model, and I also just do it intuitively. and then now. And I've never seen this assembled. I've only seen it in small sections laid out in my studio.
Yeah, well, that's always true with public art. There's an enormous postponement of gratification. It's not like making a painting in your studio. The work doesn't exist until it's installed on the site. It's designed for the site. It doesn't fit on any other wall. In the past, in my own studio in New York, I have more space to lay things out. And I like to work back into things as I lay them out and see them in relationship to other things, and I can't do that here. I mean, I'm making one table at a time and boxing them, continuously boxing them up, because there's just no place for them. And since this is one whole image, it has to hold together. I hope it doesn't break down into sections that are the size of these tables, you know. I'm kind of operating on a prayer that it's going to hold together in the end. You worked on a bunch of stations, right?
Worked on all of them.
Yeah? So you like this art, that subway?
I like them very much.
How do you like the white?
Yeah, I think on the whole, the white's a little strong on that one. This one I think is a little more successful.
This is multi-mosaics, and it comes from a small island of Murano, Italy, and this mosaic is made with silica sand and oxides of metal. We have available approximately between 17 or 18,000 different colors.
And mosaics go back centuries again to Pompeii and even the Romans. And so he's following through on a very big tradition.
How long have you been setting tile?
About 20 years.
About 20 years. When do you think you're going to peak?
I think I peaked about 10 years ago.
Even just numbering these, I find I have to get someone else to do it for me because I screw it up continuously.
Well, that's why we got artists, and that's why we got tile setters.
I guess so.
And then you want a real dark one, Norm, right? So like this one would be good, you know, on the very edge.
Mike, what you gotta get ready also is the gray and the light. Yep. There's some light in it.
See, this would be the corner, and this would be the one if you want to fill in those forms right up. These can just go up and up.
All right, I just want to
As a maker, I wanted to have some experience of feeling actual space, and then actual height of ceiling, the direction of light, and stuff like that. But again, the building wasn't here, so I have to make a guess from blueprint.
June tomorrow will be 3/4 through.
I think it's going pretty good. I think it will come out the way I was thinking. But guessing it from blueprint was the really hardest part.
That's been the problem from the start, and that was why the first row was the hardest to set. I design all my patterns, which are going to go up on this wall, so they can be adjusted on site, because oftentimes you get to the site and they don't exactly match the blueprint plans, the measurements. So this is called field cutting, trimming off the insides where the X's meet so it'll look like it should. The tradespeople, all of them have been great. The installers here are making it look flush and flat, and anything I've made a mistake on, they're correcting with the way it's being installed, so it'll read right. There are different thicknesses in my tile, and they're making the whole thing look like it's the same thickness, which is how it should go. And this kind of thing takes a lot of time, and they've given it. They're having to put each piece up one by one. There are 13,844 pieces.
this piece that has probably over 5,000 separate parts.
About 600 pieces of tile that are unique, and each piece is like a painting of itself.
The wall's approximately 1,200 square feet, and they're approximately 1,200 square tiles because they're a foot square.
Each of these tiles is one of 6 specific modules. For example, here's one of them. And there are other ones. This is a different pattern. This is one that's sort of like a wheel shape. There's the star pattern. And part of the idea of these modules is that any module will fit with any other. So it doesn't matter what tiles combine, the image will coincide. Furthermore, you have the option of rotating it so that if we have this here, this lines up here, or if we turn it like this, it lines up. This means that if you have 2 tiles, we can put them together in 36 different ways. If we have 3 tiles, there are over 200 ways. If we have 4 tiles, it's many thousands of ways it can be done. So although there are very few elements, the way in which the pattern can be organized is really infinite.
Geometric things, I think, is that people have a lot of different things relating to geometry with quilts and fabrics or food or whatever. There was a man working on the escalator, and he said, this looks like some American Indian things I have at home. And the pattern is designed so that at a quick glance, you can see one set of patterns. But if you have to stand and wait on the people mover, the more you look, the more you'll see.
When I went to Detroit the first time, I saw the shape of the wall and it looked like a D that was on it's 4 stories high, essentially, having intertwining animals and birds and flowers. And these bears and bulls are sort of frolicking and chasing each other around the D, the bear and the bull being the symbol of the financial district.
We have the dog, the cat, snakes, birds, all these symbols that talk about universal order, of equality as far as all species are concerned through nature.
There was a slogan for a station called Reach for the Stars. And all of these animals are derived from the constellations in the heavens. Not only do you see the heavens, but they're sort of gently floating in a beautiful dream.
A mural, it's always something that we remain through the years, and our generations would say, oh, that's what they did. We're leaving a footprint of the art of today to be seen and to be criticized.
I envisioned a people for the people mover as a theme of the work. 20th century, fast-moving folks. The executive who leaps giant buildings, at least he's leaping from one story to another. And there's the problem of what are you going to do with the child when you're going to work, and how many briefcases can a lady carry at one time. But nevertheless, it's how life is today.
The triangle is a simplified form of a human plane, of the three planes in which human life exists, physical, mental, and spiritual. And the rectangle that you see is like a reference frame or a window on the world.
Detroit, to me, has a lot of element of music. I like lots of different kind of music, and I get lots of strong influences from it. So I wanted to put some of these elements into the work.
City planning has always appealed to me. The view from an airplane looking down on lines, it all had something to do with transportation. The design was created in such a way that you see little vignettes, and they're complete in themselves as you go up. One of the most striking vantage points, I anticipate, is from the train as you leave the station or as you come into the station.
All of the art in our 15 art pieces is new, but this particular station is the marriage of the old and the new. This beautiful green tile was made in 1935 for the Stroh Brewery Company, and then Diane Kulisek, one of the artists at Pewabic, she designed these lovely arches. These are all new tiles and new colors, but the old Stroh remains here. Much of the station below is the Stroh tile. One of the most difficult things about this project has been trying to persuade Detroiters that we should have major and exciting art in the stations. But nothing makes you more popular than success. People are absolutely crazy about these wonderful walls.
Thank you.